Gracie, I know you want to answer, Gracie?
Yes. Just because you have the disability doesn't mean you have to stay at home. I go to school, I hang out with friends, I go to dances, like and go to my job training.
You're good at your job. Um, I saw you for the first time, Gracie, at HTI's summer leadership camp. Is that right?
Yes.
So you attended that, and that's an activity that helps you transition from high school into your adult life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was a great program.
I I had to stay in a dorm room. Sorry. I had to I had to stay in a dorm room with a friend.
That's so cool.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Um, Danielle, what would you say to a parent or to a young person?
I would say, along with what others have said, it's not really about you as parents want, it's more about what's going to, you know, be meaningful and allow allow your children with disabilities to be successful and productive members, of society. I would also say, I would also refrain from, hovering over, your kids and, let them fail, let them, you know, fall down, let them make mistakes. And I say that, and I remember my first day of college at Morehead State, I was, walking to class and I got stuck in a parking lot. I got lost. And I called my dad. I was like, I'm lost. I stuck in this parking lot. My dad was at work. He said, well, I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to get out of it. So I did get out of the parking lot. So just, let them, it's okay if they make a mistake. It's okay if they try something and they fail. Just be there as a support, but don't rush in to save them because, how will they learn to take care of themselves if they don't learn that, mistakes happen and consequences happen?
That's very good advice. From all of you, that's very good advice. All the things you've said. I'm going to ask another question. I think sometimes, especially in small towns, job coaches, and there are probably some job coaches out there that are listening today, there might be some frustration because there may not be options for people with disabilities. And then you add a transportation problem on top of that. And it just seems like the challenge is impossible. What advice would you have for job coaches or for job seekers? And Gracie, I'll let you start first, and then we're going to hear from Andrea because I know Andrea's thought about this question.
Oops. So to let him know that I'm here and to be listened to.
Andrea, what advice would you give to a job coach for somebody in a rural area, especially?
Well, my first advice is to hone in and see if they have any skills that they could do to maybe be independent, start their own business, an entrepreneur, or, do they do arts and crafts, or are they do that kind of thing they can do from home, and they could send out their product. As growing up, my grandmother taught me to crochet, so when I was doing my everybody has their little spiel of McDonald's or the like. So when I was working at McDonald's, I was making baby blankets on the side and selling them.
Oh, wow.
as part of my, income. And job coaches need to take transportation routes and things of this nature, and what kind of transportation is available, what's available on that transportation route, before saying you can do this here, but can they get there? If they can't get there, that job is useless to them. So what the job coach needs to do is take they need to get on the bus if there's a bus available and see what's on that transportation route and see what jobs are available on that transportation route before even thinking about looking into jobs that might be available, or look into jobs that are available, then look to see which ones are on that route.
That's great advice. Ashley, what would you tell a job coach?
I'm gonna go a little bit off topic here. But I definitely think that I definitely would say look into benefits counseling for your client, because a lot of people are afraid to work, and even volunteering is a great stepping stone. But if people don't volunteer and go into the community, um, like so many people are afraid of losing their benefits, but there's resources like Ticket to Work that can allow people to um, try what they want to do. And I feel like a broken record, but if you try what you want to do, and I'm glad that benefits programs exist, because a lot of people can just see what they want to do. And um, like I said, volunteering is a great place to start to figure out where your interests are and different things like that.
I love that you brought up people's hesitation about their benefits and losing their benefits. And, my coworker, Carolyn Wheeler, and folks made some great resources. I think it's called DB 101. But there's like a 101 series you can watch about benefits and about working, so that you can really understand and be comfortable with the idea of going to work. Oh, Carolyn Wheeler, you're out there in the audience, and she's given the link. It's ky.db101.org. So that's in the chat box if folks would like to write that down. But starting off, like Ashley said, with really feeling comfortable about going to work. Some people have those fears or that hesitation. Katie, what would you tell a job coach?
Okay, so I hate to feel like I'm just echoing everything everybody said, but I feel like Andrea just kind of took the words right out of my mouth. You really want to find what the client, is passionate about and wants to pursue, but you also want to look at their transportation options first and foremost to see what is available to them, so that they can figure out what they're able to pursue. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know.
Danielle, what would you advise job coaches from your lived experience as a person with a disability? And you're muted right now if you want to unmute. Perfect.
Awesome. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a lot of experience working with job coaches. I just kind of thought it was unnecessary.
Okay.
Personally. So I mean, it didn't really, work rehab didn't really help me find a job. I just pretty much told him I was looking for one, and that was it. I told him when I found one and when I needed technology. So I was very much of the opinion of, why do I need a job coach when I can apply for jobs and do interviews myself?
Oh, Danielle, you were so independent. My goodness. When you got your first job, did your parents help you, or or did you just go for it yourself?
What do you mean? I just, I applied for it, and I did the interview virtually, and got the position. My parents helped me move to Louisville. I actually live half a mile from the Kentucky School for the Blind, and my mom stayed a couple of days to help me get settled in, and then um, walked walked the route with me once to KSB with a cane, and then I had a couple of friends that lived in the same complex, and we took the doggy and walked it a time or two, and then I was pretty much okay.
You guys are all so phenomenal in your independence and your confidence, and you're all adventurers, which of course is why we named this panel, Oh, the Places You'll Go. I want to ask kind of a personal question. I want to ask about friendships and even dating. How does that work with having a disability and having different transportation needs? Is that forcing you to stay at home, or are you out having fun with friends? Are you able to date? How do you handle transportation when it comes to dating? So Ashley's getting on a plane. You want to tell us about it?
So, yes, I have flown all the way up to California, and I was waiting for you to segue into this because I've wanted to talk about it for so long. I've been sitting on pins and needles this whole panel, but I do not fly with my $40,000 wheelchair, power chair that I'm in right now. My dad so graciously flies with me, and we get on a plane. We always fly direct from Cincinnati or Columbus to San Francisco, and I even though that's a 5 hour flight and really fatiguing, like it helps because we were able to plan everything out in advance and and call the airline, say, hey, I have a disability and this is what I'll need. I'll need assistance at the gate, up to the gate. And then what my dad does when he walks me directly on the plane, he'll walk behind me and then I'll walk with his hands and whatever. So like and as long as the flight attendants know that I'm able to, that I have to. Oh yeah, and my chair. So we disassembled my manual chair, and we keep all the parts with us that can be kept, the backrest and stuff in the overhead, and that has cut down drastically on wheelchair incidents. Because you're always afraid that even your manual chair is going to be broken in transit. Which, if you think about it, that's like breaking your legs. Imagine if somebody told you, like, your legs are broken, you can't get off this, and you can't get off this flight, then this is what you'll have to do, and to be able to get a new set of legs. So I think about that every time I fly, and it's just, and I think it helps that my brother, one of my triplets is a, a first officer, because he's able to alert me on different things pertaining to accessible air travel. I know you all have seen the Facebook post circulating with the airplane tie downs, which I don't know when that's going to come to fruition, but I hope it does soon. And yeah, so that's my experience.
Well, you mentioned having your wheelchair broken is like having broken legs. And that's
Yes.
such an apt statement. And I don't know if you know our friend Walt and others at UK, Dr. Rummerl, they have been doing research on air travel, specifically about the kinds of things you're mentioning. So HDI has been looking at that because that's a big issue. Wheelchairs being broken, and if your $40,000 wheelchair is broken, that's a bad situation.
Oh yeah, which is why I never fly with it. But you know, I would like to be able to stay in my own chair and you know, just jet set around the country, have a little bit of alcohol on board, you know, my little wine, and you know, just be able to relax. So, but
Katie,
you know,
I think you've had some air travel experiences.
Yeah, so Ashley, I actually had something to add to that, an experience that I had that you made me think about with your story. So last year during spring break, my family and I went to Florida. My brother was in a baseball tournament there, and it was our first time going to that area. It was our first time going to the I'm sorry. It was our it was our first time using, I believe, the airport in Charleston, and then first time flying into Florida. But when we got there, somehow we had to check my walker because I use a walker often too. I'm in my wheelchair a lot, especially if I'm driving my car. But I do use a walker to get around short distances and things like that. So we had to check my walker so that it could get on the plane. Well, we got to our destination in Florida and they had lost it. And it wasn't completely a lost cause, but it took forever for us to find it on the plane. And so I was kind of in a little panic attack mode, just kind of freaking out, like, what in the world? This has never happened. Because I'd flown a couple of times, but we don't fly a whole lot. But that had never happened before. So I was like, what in the world? And so that just kind of threw me for a loop. But yeah, I wanted to add to that because that Ashley had made me think about that with her story, and it just brought back a little bit of PTSD. But yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments about friendships or dating?
I do actually.
Okay.
You know, Maria, that we've already talked about this a little bit. My boyfriend is my best friend in the entire world. And my first boyfriend, I might add. We've been together almost 4 years, and I'm gonna pull up a picture because I mentioned earlier I was gonna pull up a picture of my van and I just found it.
Okay.
Here is the van that I drive. I don't know if I can bring it into view very well.
I can see it. It's white.
Is it blurry? It looks blurry on my end.
Blurry, yeah.
Hold on. I don't know how to. Wait, there we go.
There it is. Oh, that's perfect.
Okay, yeah. I had to figure out how to bring it into focus. I was like, what in the world?
And that's in the parking lot of Superior?
Yes. Yes, that was when. So we didn't actually get it that day. There was some things that we had to do to it, or they had to do to it before we could, before it was ready to go. And so, but that was the first time I had actually seen it. So, but anyway, sorry, back to the whole dating thing. So my boyfriend and I have been together almost 4 years. It started out as an online thing. We are long distance like Ashley and hers, but he's only about an hour away. And he'll actually be here in about an hour or two, speaking of which. He comes in on the weekends to see me. So I'm very fortunate to have that. And he's just wonderful. I'm going to pull up a picture because you guys have got to see how cute he is. I seriously, I could talk about him forever and ever, but I won't, because we only have so much time. But he's wonderful. He, like I said earlier, I think you know, he knows how independent I am, and he wants to push me to be the best that I can and to do everything that I want to do, because he knows that I'm capable and he wants to see me, you know, reach my potential and everything. But he is a huge help. Like, he will, whenever we go places, if I take my walker, he will load it into his car and load it in and out and have no problem. And he doesn't love my driving, but you know, he'll tolerate it if he has to. He always jokes around. He gives me such a hard time about it. But the few times that we've driven my car, he's like, okay, well, I didn't die that time, but
Oh, that's funny.
he's something else. But yeah, but no, he's very good about, you know, just helping me out wherever I need it. We've made several beach trips, and he'll carry me out onto the beach, which is just precious, and I love that. And he'll just do whatever that I need him to do. And but we met 3 or 4 years ago online and did a little bit of just talking to each other online for about a year. It was bad timing. It happened around COVID, so you know, everything was shut down and nobody could really get together anyway, so it kind of sucked. But we eventually we got together and got to go out on our first date and everything, and it was so much fun. It was Ruby Tuesdays in Barbersville, and that's like forever our anniversary spot that we go to every year now.
Weren't you like the poster girl for Ruby Tuesdays for a while?
Okay, so listen. So Ashley sees everything I post on social media, and she talks to me about it all the time. But anyway, but so we last year or the year before, we went to Ruby Tuesdays for our anniversary, as we do every year, and they used our picture, because we use it, like, we post pictures every year for our anniversary right outside the restaurant, and they used our picture for their 50th anniversary, I think, that year. And so they posted it on their Instagram, and I thought it was really cool.
Well, you're so photogenic, Katie. That's,
Oh, gosh.
you know,
Thank you,
I'm
Marie.
sure the picture was just terrific.
Thank
I
you.
would like to point out
Yeah.
that she does model for
Oh,
social
stop.
media.
Stop it. I do not. I do a little. Here's my cute boyfriend, though. Hold on. Let me.
Go back a little bit.
How do I bring that into focus? Oh my gosh. What in the world? Okay. I blame it on the
Yeah,
blurry.
I can see. Hold it right there. Well, you guys are a cute couple. So
Oh,
the reason I even bring this question up is because sometimes people perceive folks with disabilities as no, you know, they don't think of them in a relationship kind of way. You know,
And that's
maybe
something
they
I
don't,
struggled with for a very long time. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah, but you guys are all getting out there and living your best life. And I know Andrea does things like she's at the UK football game or something. So Andrea, do you want to talk about some of the things that you do that people might not realize?
Well, I've been to the basketball games. I've had season football tickets. I even got on public transit, went down to an Eagles concert and bought tickets outside the door from somebody that had an extra one and had better seats than I could have gotten buying them online.
That's incredible. As somebody who has never driven and doesn't own a vehicle, but yet you are going more places than a lot of us are going.
Well, life is what you make it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Danielle, did you want to chime in on that question?
Sure. I dated a guy a few years ago, but I just it's not really been something I'm, been into too much. But I do hang out with friends. I do go do things with friends. We meet up. Me and a friend did a water aerobics class together, and we would meet up at the pool and hang out and do that. And about once a month or so, I go. I have a church friend that'll come pick me up and we'll drive the 3 hours because my parents still live in Olive Hill, and I'll go and visit like my home church, and it's also her home church because she's from that area. She's from Ashland area, Westwood area, herself. So we come in about once a month and do that, and then drive back here. But I also do a lot of like challenge recreation. I do the adaptive rowing program here in Louisville.
Oh,
Yeah, and I do indoor rock climbing as well. So
do indoor rock climbing.
I do top rope, but
I am
yeah,
so
top rope
scared of
climbing.
heights. I can't believe you do that.
Yeah, I am too. That's a no for me. That's awesome.
I enjoy it. I love doing stuff like that. I actually went wakeboarding when I was in Florida last time, and went stand up paddle boarding. I wasn't very good at it, but it was still really fun. So I like to try those kind of activities and kind of like being active and um going for walks with my guide dog. I say walks is probably more like a run. She does not know what the definition of slow down means. It's either faster. Sorry. If you hear her snoring right now, that's probably her just sleeping, telling me that she's gonna get ready to drag me somewhere. So
I'm going to take a second and I'm going to share my screen because I want to tell the audience that I have a handout available for you guys. If you go to the Transportation Initiative Facebook page, and it's just called Transportation Initiative. So if you go on Facebook, I made a post today and it has a handout that you can download, and it's going to tell you where to go for resources. So the Transportation Initiative has educational videos, printable handouts that are going to tell you step by step about a lot of the transportation options that folks have talked about today. There's information on OVR, the driver training programs. We have information on vehicle modifications. We have information on public transit and the public transit apps and how that works. I'd also like for you guys to look at the social media accounts because on those we share a lot of information. We share tips if you're having difficulty accessing a service that you need. There's some good tips on there. And I also mentioned today that Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has a great resource that's by county. And so we have the link to that where you can see what's, especially for those of you that are job coaches or supported employment specialists, you can see what transportation options are available in the region that you're in. And then down here at the bottom is my name, email address, and phone number. If you need technical assistance, you can reach out to me. So you can download this on the Transportation Initiative webpage. Stop sharing. And I'm going to, we have 15 minutes if Walt wants to open it for any questions. We'll need the questions read because of Danielle.
I can read. Are they in the chat?
I don't think we have any yet, so we'll let Walt.
Yeah, I'm on my phone now and it's connected to a braille device, so I can see them.
Okay, awesome. So if anybody has any questions for our panelists. I don't see any yet.
We do not have any questions or comments quite yet, but if you do, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. You can hover bottom of your screen. Q&A box will appear. You can put them in there.
I was looking in chat.
You can also put your comments or questions in chat.
I wanted to go back to Gracie really quick and see if there's anything else Gracie wanted to tell us as our youngest member. If we've covered everything that you wanted to share today.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add about transportation?
If you have like a car or a vehicle to get around, like safely around, like places you go around your like neighborhood or school or your neighbor's yard to look around like Halloween decorations or Christmas decorations, you could also do that.
One thing I want to point out that Gracie makes me think of what you said about folks that have transportation. If you are a person with a vehicle and you're driving to work, look around in the community and see who you can ride share with, because there are young people, there are folks with disabilities who would really like the opportunity just to ride with you to work. So if you work at Walmart, there might be folks that could ride with you and work the same shift. I make it a point to look out for other folks that might need a ride the places I'm going, because we can help provide a solution. There's some comments in the chat box. People are saying, you all are amazing. Glad I joined in today. I work for OVR. Lisa Carico says, this was wonderful. Thanks. Lori Norton says, thank you for sharing. I loved it. Carolyn Gooden says, excellent presentation. Thanks to Maria and all of our panelists. And Patty Godby says, I appreciate everything they all shared. It's great to hear their experiences. There is one anonymous question. What's the most frustrating thing about using public transportation? Does anybody want to take this one? Andrea.
It's living life on their time, not your own.
What is it that you've told me before, Andrea? You always give me such good advice, and you said something about it's their dime, it's their dollar, because your time is valuable too.
Yes, yes.
If you're waiting 2 hours up for the bus, that's 2 hours that you could have earned a paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. And it's on their dime, and they're thinking about their dollar, but they don't take into consideration what, like somebody else mentioned earlier, the mental and the monetary that is involved in getting to and fro, be it a social event, be it work, or something like this. If it's too much of a task to get there, they're not going to do it. So, it's more about them right now than it is you. It's not about the consumer, it's about the company and their bottom line.
One option that might be on the horizon for Lexington is that a couple city council members, and Chuck Ellinger is one, I think, that's spearheading it, is bringing a microtransit service to Lexington. And what that would be are just small, accessible vehicles, and they run like a taxi service. And you use your phone and you can book a ride, or you can call on the telephone. But they respond in 10 to 20 minutes, and they give you a ride. You don't have to plan it a day in advance, or things come up and plans change, and you won't get penalized if you cancel a ride at the last minute. So it's a really cool option. You might be hearing more about that in the spring as Lexington City Council starts thinking about this idea and bringing it to Lexington. I know people with disabilities would really love to see this happen because those vehicles would be accessible and you're getting a door-to-door ride. I think we're almost out of time. I want to thank everybody. I really appreciate you guys.
As advertised, this has been great. It's been an honor and a privilege for all of you to join us today. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to share your experiences and expertise with us. We are so grateful for the variety of perspectives and for your willingness to share, which brought richness to today's conversation. Thank you for an informative panel. Be well and stay safe. Thank you.